We're gonna look at a couple things. For one, we're gonna look at my old favorite Castlevania website tonight before we end stream, and we're going to look at my tier list, my Castlevania tier list from a year or two ago when I made my Castlevania tier list, and we're gonna see if I still agree with my own tier list. I wonder how long ago it was that I made that tier list. It actually may have been more than a couple years ago. It may have been like 4 or 5, who knows? Oh shit, you want to make it? Oh, we got to make a tier list now? What do you want to make a tier list about, Shadow? Do Castlevania game tier list and then compare with the old. Oh, a new Castlevania tier. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're wanting me to make like a new one right now before we look at the old one. So, okay, we can do that. To clarify, my tier list, that's a good idea actually. My tier list for my Castlevania games. So, just to clarify, we're not like, it was all my favorite, like, opinion, right? It wasn't like, I wasn't trying to do like the objective thing where it's like Symphony of the Night's #1 and then this, I was just like, no, these are my favorites, what I like, and we'll see. All right, so let's, I think this looks like a goddamn, like, pretty solid one, so we'll go ahead and work with this one, all right? And change these stupid ass. I don't really think like many Castlevania games like are bad games. I really don't. I think most of them are enjoyable to some extent, if you ask me. So as a, preference, just to preference this, because I think people often misunderstand tier lists. So just to clarify before we start, it's not necessarily going to be in an order. Like if I have 3 games in S tier, the one in front is not #1 better than what. The idea is that they're all they're all S tier that are in there. And also, just to clarify, when I put a game in D tier, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. That just means to me, it's not. That's what tier it belongs in as far as a Castlevania game goes. Because there's one Castlevania game I always put low that always is like the hot take. That there's one that is always a hot take. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there. Kid Dracula that's an A. Kid Dracula is a fantastic game. I got it down here. Hardly a Castlevania game, but I guess it is. It is in a way, and it's got a lot of variety. Got a lot of power-ups. The stages are all built around the power-ups you get, so the game has a great progression. Fantastic game. Castlevania Chronicles is we're gonna put that. Let's see. I want to put Castlevania Chronicles in. A. It's really good. Very hard. We're gonna put it in A for now. I might change that. Castlevania Judgment. God damn this game. As y'all know, I love fighting games, and I really was hoping Castlevania Judgment was gonna be like a traditional like fighting game. Unfortunately, it's more like an arena fighter, but it's also very fun. The characters and the visuals for this game are actually the art style of whoever did Death Note also did the artwork for Castlevania Judgment. I'm pretty sure it was Death Note. It's not a great fighter, but it has really cool stuff. For example, let's look at the characters, because the characters, some of them actually look really good, and I love the roster. Sypha is like a total waifu for me, right? Total waifu. But she's really cool in this game. She's actually my main in this game. It's a great game, it is. I just wish it was a better fighting game. It's very casual, which is fine, it's nice. Carmella looks crazy cool in this one. Like, Carmella looks dope in this game. Alucard, look how sick Alucard looks. Isn't that dope? That is a great looking Alucard, right? Look at the nice, like, it's almost like a silky quilt, like, cape. So it looks good. The game looks good. The only thing, there's a couple characters that don't look good, right? There's a couple that don't look good. One of those is Death. Death looks like dentist utensils. Tell me that, I mean, this doesn't scare me. I see this whenever I go to the dentist, right? It ain't no, like, that's whatever. There's Grant Dynasty, and there he is. It's got a lot of interesting stuff. Actually, to unlock Shinoa in this game, you had to do something with your DS and Wii. You had to link your DS account or something like that with your Nintendo account to get Shinoa, right? But she's super cool. She's one of the coolest characters in Castlevania and one of the most interesting stories, which we'll get to that eventually. But anyway, long story short, Judgment is really cool, but it's just not It's not what you would want fighter-wise. It's a C-tier game. It's good. It's just not mind-blowing. It's fun for a little bit, but that's it. This is the one we were just talking about. Harmony of Despair. Now, this is a multiplayer game. Okay, this is a Castlevania. This is honestly a love letter Castlevania game to just Castlevania fans. It plays like Symphony of the Night and the DS games. And it's like, I believe it's up to 6 players or maybe 4, but there's multiple characters you play as. And it's basically like you're in a big ass castle and you're playing multiplayer and you can split up and fight bosses and stuff together. It's fun. It's a good game. Honestly, kind of without people to play with, it's not like, it's just, you know, it's just okay. You know what I mean? So I'm saying like, if it's probably B or C if you have multiple players, but without or whatever, I mean, honestly, overall, it's just like D tier maybe, because it's just, I don't know. I'll put it in C. I'll keep it in C for now. Kid Dracula on Game Boy, great game, very fun. Not as good as the Famicom one though. I know a lot of people actually, I think, argue the opposite. They think a lot of people say the Game Boy one's better, but the Game Boy one is way too easy. Like, they give you, like, in between each stage, they give you, like, 20 lives. Like, it's super easy to get extra men. So it's actually a little too easy, and to me, that kind of made it not as enjoyable, because I didn't feel like there was any challenge. I don't want to be cliche, but Symphony of the Night is absolutely fucking... It is. You know, I don't want to be cliche and all that, whatever, but the hype that Symphony of the Night gets is... It is warranted, you know? It's not my favorite, but it's definitely, like, it does deserve the hype it gets. It does. Like, for the longest time, I was like, I like Symphony of the Night, but I don't want to be, it's good, but it's not the best. But it's kind of like, no, it kind of is, like, one of the best ones. It is. It changed Castlevania forever, but as a game as a whole, I don't know. There is something so special about it, especially your first time playing, not knowing anything about it. If you haven't got things ruined for you at this point, unfortunately, I'll tell you what. I saw somebody stream the other day. I was not the other day. It's been like several months ago. It was earlier this year, but I found a new streamer I was watching, and she was playing Symphony of the Night. She had never played it. She did not have any spoilers, which I'm not giving any spoilers now, because just in case there is a fucking unicorn in the chat who doesn't know about the game. She didn't know. And I was just like, this is a rare opportunity to see somebody who has never, this is like, literally, it's like finding a unicorn. It's literally like meeting somebody who doesn't know the plot twist or whatever to Planet of the Apes. Like, you just do not meet people who, like, you know what I mean? Symphony of the Night bred a new crowd of Castlevania fans that are, bless their heart, they are very passionate about it, but I wish they would keep their fucking mouth shut when people are playing the game. And I get it. Like, I understand when you're passionate about something, you want to talk about it, like I'm doing right now. You know, I'm talking about it. But I literally have watched people, not only were so many people backseat driving, basically, him playing, but it was nice to see him playing it and enjoying it and all this. But not only that, but there were a lot of people were giving him advice that was just bad advice. It was like wrong. Like, it was information that was just like, this is not going to help. That's not how you do this part. It's bad information. And, you know, I don't know. You get that sometimes. But the only reason I'm bringing that up is because Symphony of the Night is one of those that I think people they get a little too excitable, and they need to just let people experience it for themselves. You know what I mean? So good going in blind. Yeah. See, I think that's the best thing to do for people, you know? If they've managed, here's the thing. If they've managed to go this long without getting it spoiled, like something like Symphony of the Night or whatever, it's like, why would you want to take that away from them? You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Long story short, Symphony of the Night is 100% worth the hype. It belongs in S tier. Maybe on my old list I put it in A, but regardless, it's up there. It's tip top. Lament of Innocence is the earliest in the timeline. It sets the story up. We get to see, it's the origin story, essentially. Very cool, especially for the story. It's one of my favorites for the story. The game itself, however, did not age well. It doesn't look good. It doesn't really look that good anymore. And the gameplay itself, it is very labyrinth. super labyrinthy and very confusing at times. So we're gonna put it's fun. It does not age well. It's hard to play now. So we're gonna go C on this one too, I think, because it's a rough one to go back to nowadays. Dawn of Sorrow for the DS. This is when the if certain games weren't anime enough, this is the one that went super anime, right? Dawn of Sorrow is a good game. Fine. When I first played those, I didn't like that they were set in the future in Japan. I thought it was goofy. I thought it was a little hammy that they did that, because I was just like, yeah, we get it. Japan, yeah. Or whatever. But they're cool games, you know. It's literally in the story that, you know, the castle can move anywhere the fuck it wants, all this. So it's like, it's fine. It's whatever. You know what I mean? It also uses the stylus, which is fine. It also kind of like dates it, right? So it like, because of that, you know, that's something that's always going to be the gimmicky. It has a gimmick that's going to date it. So that being said, it's like, I'll say B, maybe upper C, you know, around there. We'll maybe go B. You know, we'll go B. All right, I think that's fair. Curse of Darkness. This is the second 3D, or this is the 3D game that came after Lament of Innocence, right? It was on PS2, it was on Xbox. This is a great one. It's a direct sequel to Castlevania 3 on NES. It introduces a couple characters that are really important to the story, Hector and Isaac, which are a huge part of the Netflix series. They're actually a pretty big part of the Netflix series, and creates some new lore. There's even a comic book about these guys, right? But the game itself is actually really good. It has a lot of. It basically takes that 3D, took off. You have a dynamic camera in this one. This one's actually good. Like, it's really good, as a matter of fact. Well, and I like this one a lot. I think the voice acting was shockingly, it was actually shockingly good for when it came out. I'm not saying it's the best voice acting in the world, but for 2005, let's take a look. Let's listen to some of this right now. Tell me what you guys think.
Show yourself, Isaac. I know you're here.
PS2 and Xbox.
I finally tracked you down.
You tracked me down. I was the one who lured you here. Hector, the fool who betrayed our Lord Dracula.
That matters not. I've come to exact my revenge upon you for the death of Rosalie.
But dude, honestly, I played games from this, 2005. This was good. Like, I remember playing this when it first came out and being like, dude.
Dracula is gone, but his powers are still here in Valencia. Even you must realize.
Devil forging.
Indeed, with this the most forbidden of arts.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right? So I remember being like, dang, I was surprised by that, because it still hadn't gotten to that point yet where the voice acting in games was like just hitting it, right? Okay, the Castlevania Adventure. Yeah, it is about as good of a Castlevania game on Game Boy for when it came out as you could expect. I mean, it's about what you'd expect. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's still, it's so stripped down, so simplified, so stripped down. But I have beat it multiple times. I played it, and it's just a very simple one. It's a very simple. So, but yeah, it's definitely a D game. Not one of the best. Aria, I know this is one of people's sacred ones. People love this one. I haven't beat this one. Or wait, no, yes I have. I have beat this one, actually. I don't think I ever finished Dawn completely, but I have this one. This is another one, is good, and I know people love this one a lot, but it's mid for me. Aria is really good, but I don't like handhelds that much. I don't like handheld games very much. I didn't like that it was like in the future and stuff. I'm accepted it now. I like it now, but at the time and playing it over the years, I still think it's just a little hammy, and I don't like the over the top anime feel it has. You know what I mean? So very good, but to me, I'm just like, I like it, but I'm not crazy about it, you know? Symphony of the Night, again, I hate to be cliche, but Symphony of the Night is not one of the best ones. It has certain charm to it. There are certain things I do like about it, but overall, it's just like disappointing. It's more disappointing than anything. That's the problem with Symphony of the Night. It's not bad. It's just like, it's supposed to have more and it has less. It somehow has less. Like the world feels so empty somehow, even though they added towns and all this stuff. And yet it, oh yeah, Simon's Quest, not Symphony of the Night. What the fuck am I talking about? Simon's Quest. Simon's Quest feels so empty, even though like it added all this stuff. There's not very many bosses. It's incredibly easy. It's stupidly easy. It's a mess. It's a kind of a mess of a game. Castlevania Adventures Rebirth, S tier. Incredible game. a WiiWare exclusive. You got to emulate it, or you have to have a Wii that has it downloaded. That's the only way to play this, but it is a retelling of the Game Boy games. Literally, it's kind of like the story, I guess, of the first one, or they didn't really put much of a story in this one, kind of a little bit, but the gameplay and the stuff is kind of like stuff from both the first and second one, even though I wish they would take more from the second. You can play with the controller. You don't have to use like motion controls or anything like that, but it looks great, feels good. It's tough. When you get to later levels, it's tough. It's got great remixed versions of some of the best music from like Bloodlines and from Castlevania 3. Fantastic Castlevania game. Like overall, it is one of the best modern ones. Not to mention, this came out on the Wii. I think it was 2007 or 2008. It's a 2D Castlevania game that wasn't Metroidvania. You just don't get those very often. And this is just like, it's so good. This is Christopher Belmont. It's the third in the timeline, right, for the games as far as Belmonts go. He's the third in the timeline, the second to fight Dracula, and has also a very interesting story that we'll get to when we get to the second Game Boy game. If you have a way to play it, then you have to play it. Circle of the Moon is low-key, man. I fucking love Circle of the Moon. I think Circle of the Moon is a fantastic game. Circle of the Moon is the only, maybe with the exception of Order of Ecclesia, I think Circle of the Moon even further. Circle of the Moon is like the only Metroidvania game that somehow retains the difficulty of the originals. Because a lot of the Metroidvania games are easy because you can level up, you can grind, you can get new weapons or whatever. Circle of the Moon somehow retains that difficulty, I think, of the originals while being Metroidvania and giving you, dude, you get all types of different whips. There's a Rose Thorn whip in this one. There's all Flame whip. It's just so good. All the upgraded different whips you can get in weapons. Fantastic game. Great one. Circle of the Moon, top notch. Dracula's Curse, you guys already know. It's my favorite one. S tier. NES original, difficult, retains like the proper difficulty, has some of the best characters, started the best lore. It's got the coolest version of Dracula, in my opinion. But that's when there's two like kind of types of Draculas that Castlevania is kind of known for. There's one that's like the old man, like Bela Lugosi, classic Universal monster, like bleh, from the first one. By Castlevania 3, I think that's when they gave him more of his own identity. He looks more like a satanic, like dark, like magician type, and I always liked that. I always liked that way more. I always thought that Dracula was way cooler when he was more of like the demonic magician type thing, and that's when it started. Was Castlevania 3. That's when they started that look. This staff, he has like a staff where he summons flames and shit, and that one's so cool. Last couple stages whooped my ass for a while. Dude, they are rough. Yeah, they're rough, definitely. God. The first time beating Castlevania 3 is like a hard thing to do, but God, does it feel good when you get it done. Lords of Shadow and Lords of Shadow 1 and 2, they're not even going on this list. They're not. Fuck them. Dracula X Chronicles, we're gonna go with B. It's 2.5D Rondo of Blood remake for the US with English voice acting. You can unlock Rondo of Blood on there. Also, you can unlock Symphony of the Night on there. But the Symphony of the Night version that is on PSP is actually not the original. The sprites kind of look different in certain situations, like the cross item looks different, as well as the voice acting is completely different from what I understand, right? So the Castlevania collections that is on like Switch and that came out a couple years ago, the Castlevania collection that was on the Switch and PS4 and all that, the Symphony of the Night version of that game, I think of that one, is this voice acting, right? It's the newer voice acting, and I believe that is just, and I remember seeing the sprite difference. If I'm not mistaken, it's just a port of the PSP version, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I may be wrong about that. There might be slight differences in them, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So you literally don't get the die monster, you don't belong in this world, and him saying, what is a man? Like, you literally don't get that. It's different voice acting, and honestly, it's not as charming. And while we're on the subject, that voice acting, everybody makes fun of it. Honestly, I thought that shit was actually really good considering when it came out. Only problem, it's on PSP. Rondo of Blood, it's S tier, definitely it is. They've kind of like cuck sub-weapons in this game. The whip is incredibly important in this game. Like, the whip is actually one of your best weapons, if not your best. And not in the same way that's like, it's not in the way that it's broken, like in Castlevania 4, but in a way that it's like, I want them to do more, right? The stopwatch is like the worst stopwatch in any Castlevania game. Also, you have the problem with it not being like super accessible, but it's getting more accessible now. I have it on the Wii. I have it on WiiWare, or on my Wii. It was also available on that. You got it on the collection. So you also have the problem with it not being in English. So you have to read this, look up the story, read it, all that. Other than that, though, amazing. Branching paths, great music, great designs, references to older games, quality package. Order of Ecclesia is fantastic DS game. It's one of the better Metroidvania games. Also very hard. That game gets very tough. That is a part in the storyline where the Belmonts are all gone and missing. Nobody knows what happened to them. They're presumed to be gone. Yeah, I think this takes place after Symphony of the Night. So the Order of Ecclesia is like a group that forms to help fight Dracula and all this stuff. Very cool story. Legends, not very good. Legends is sadly not that good. It could have been very cool. Again, we have never gotten to have a woman as a Belmont, except for this game, which is like not canon. It's also not good. It's actually probably like, it's really not that good of a game. It's tough. It's awkward. For the time it came out, it should have been a lot better. Mind you, Castlevania Legends came out after Symphony of the Night. Like, think about that. Keep that in mind. And it's not good. It's not that great. You know, it should have been way better. Okay, this one, Harmony of Dissonance. This one is also disappointing. This one you play as Juste Belmont. Juste or Juste. Some people pronounce it Juste. Very interesting. This has two different castles that you interchange in between. So like portals will open and there's like a night and day, like evil and eviler castle, and like it's really interesting. The problem with it, it's really colorful, it's really good, really cool. Big problem with it is the music's not great. It's probably some of the worst music in the series. It's actually kind of difficult, and not for a good reason. It takes too much from Metroid. One of the biggest problems, I know a lot of people say that Symphony of the Night is not as good as Metroid. I think it's the other way around, because to me, Metroid, a lot of the Metroid games that I've played a few Metroid games, you know, not all the way through, but most of them, there are open areas, but it feels like there's only really one correct area to go. Because you need to get this item so that you can get to this area, to get this item to get to this area. So every destination has a purpose, whereas like Symphony of the Night, they don't. Every item, it doesn't have a purpose. It could be all random. It could be something that, you know, is useless, or this could be a thing you could try out this gameplay or this playthrough, and this could be something you play this time. And that's what I like about it. Because to me, it's not really open world if there's really only one way to go. That is still linear. It's just making you walk further. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, you guys get, you get what I'm saying? It's like, it's not really exploration if you can only, like, really, there's only one right way to go. Harmony took a lot more from Metroid, and it's like that. If you are not going to that one fucking pixel on the map where that one little thing is at, you are going to cover every tiny bit of the map, and you're going to be going, where the fuck am I supposed to go? For an hour, an hour, 2 hours, you're going to be like, I don't know where to go. And it's because you missed this tiny one fucking spot. And you hit that one little spot, you get this door open, and then you're going to be doing it all over again. And that was my experience with the game. It was like constantly pixel hunting through the map. And I hated that. And then it makes it even worse when you have to switch back and forth between two castles. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you're getting more confused. And then to top it all off, the good ending was actually quite difficult to get. It's very easy to miss the good ending, which I did the first time I played it. It's just disappointing. Like, it's not bad, but it's very hard. Portrait of Ruin, fantastic. I want to put Portrait of Ruin in S. Portrait of Ruin is quite good, one of the best ones. The castle, you teleport to other areas and all that, so they were able to do the Symphony of the Night thing, the Metroidvania thing, where you're in the castle the whole game, while also coming up with a way to get you to explore these like exotic locations, which is something I really like in Castlevania games. I love in Castlevania 3, where it takes you a long time to get to the castle. Rondo of Blood is the same way. It takes you a while to get to the castle. Adventure's Rebirth, same way. It takes you a long time to get there. And a lot of games since Symphony of the Night were just all in the castle. So Portrait of Ruin was a great way to give you those exotic locations with also keeping it true to Symphony of the Night style. Legacy of Darkness, you guys know I love Castlevania 64. I'm going to go ahead and put that in S. That's one of my favorites. I don't care. I have been preaching the gospel of this game forever, since it came out. Way back in fucking 99 or whatever, I have been preaching the gospel of this game, and I will defend it to my death. And you guys already know. You see me play through it multiple times, and I've given my case. I've talked about why it's good and all that stuff. And it's finally, Josh and I were talking about this the other night. It's finally starting to catch on. Like, people, apparently the Dark Souls community kind of likes this now. And now it's like cool to like it. So at least people are catching on, I guess. But now finally people are starting to like this one. They're starting to realize that people have lied and like given this one a lot of shit, like unjustifiable like shit for a long time. So Legacy of Darkness, I'm going to go ahead and put in B. The reason why is it's really good, but they changed some stuff that they said was for the better that I actually thought was kind of for the worse. Legacy of Darkness gets better once you unlock the other characters. It's got a lot of interesting stuff in it, but it still doesn't have the nostalgia for the 64, the original one that had, and it didn't have the, I don't know, I just didn't like it as much. It was just weird, because I know it's like supposed to be the better game, the upgraded version, but for whatever reason, I like the first one better. Although it has one of the best costumes for Carrie Fernandez, who's also one of my favorite characters in the series. She gets like a new costume that's like one of the best you can get in there. And it's got Henry, a knight with a shotgun. I mean, come on. That's a great one. You got to go save kids. So that's pretty cool. But still, it just never got to the levels of this one for me. Bloodlines, S. Boom. Fantastic. Bloodlines has great music, great story. It ties it in with the Dracula book, novel. You got cool locations. You go all over Europe. Got great graphics. It also has 2 playable characters. It's where they introduce Alucard also. To me, I've said that it's a great blend of original Castlevania and Super Castlevania 4. I think if you... I've said this for a long time. I think that Alucard is a character put in the game for people who prefer Castlevania 4 to the original. The reason why is he can use his weapon in like all different locations. He can spin it around. He can flip it. His campaign is easier, so it's not as brutal as like doing the Belmont, and it just feels more like a character that like plays more like Simon in Castlevania 4. You can play as John Morris, and he's more straightforward traditional. You can still kind of whip in different directions, but the purpose isn't so much like as busted as it is in 4. It's more for like whipping and swinging and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, great game. I love it. Belmont's Revenge is a total B. almost A, man. Honestly, almost A. I love Belmont's Revenge. Belmont's Revenge is really good. It's a tough Game Boy game. So obviously it's slower, it's clunkier. However, the story is really fucking awesome. There are multiple castles, all themed. One of them's like ice themed, and one of them's like grass themed, and all this stuff. Very neat. First one on Game Boy, Dracula is taking possession of Christopher's son while he's in the womb, right? While he's still in the womb. And he is taking possession of him to be sort of like reincarnated through a Belmont, right? This is like kind of the plot of the first one, right? Before the first one, there's a whole comic book on this. One of the most like unspoken about Belmonts that nobody ever talks about. Christopher's son, Salehu Belmont, which we have never gotten to play as, because I don't think he, as far as the story goes, he never had to fight Dracula. He's a kid. He's like a teenager in this, and he's training to be the next in line to get the whip. If you're ever interested in seeing what happens when two Belmonts fight, that's the game to play. It's really cool. And that's just one awesome thing about that game. That's just one small awesome thing about it. It's a really great game. First Castlevania game, arguably the only perfect Castlevania game. All of these are fantastic. They have issues. Castlevania is a damn near perfect game. Everything in Castlevania, the original, is intentional. Castlevania can be brutally hard if you don't know what you're doing, and it can be stupidly easy if you do. There are little secrets, there's tricks. You have to be patient. Their first game was just so good, and it solidified this like method of gameplay that is just so timeless and worked so well. I mean, I don't know. What do you say that hasn't been said about Castlevania? Great game. This is Mirrors of Fate right here. This was a 3DS exclusive that kind of was in the Lords of Shadow universe where you play as Shadow. I hated that game. There's one good part about this, and I'm going to show you guys a clip of it. And it is a part with these two succubuses, like trying to tempt Simon, and his face looks so stupid. He sees them, and it's like, I think they're about to kiss or something like that to try to like seduce him, and he's like looking like, oh shit, and it's like so funny.
You've missed out on so much pleasure.
He's like, oh my god. It's the greatest thing. Super Castlevania 4. Yeah, that game sucks. This is Castlevania 3, the Famicom version. And same, I guess. I'm not even gonna put on the list because, I mean, goddamn, it's there. It's the same fucking game. It's just the easier version, whatever. And Dracula X, I'm gonna go ahead and put in C. D. C. Yeah, I'll put it in C. Dracula X isn't bad. It's hard as shit. It is a little broken. It's a little weird. I'll tell you what it is. The boxes, the hit boxes and character boxes are not good in Dracula X because the tiniest pixel of your foot registers all the time. So there are times where you will be standing and a platform will come up and touch your toe and drag you, and like just little shit like that will like fuck your game over. Like it'll ruin your day. It's got a lot of just those little tiny buggy things. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Shadow, where it's like just hit detection is a little strange and off, but it has one of my favorite Dracula fights in the whole series. That final boss fight is amazing. Dude, that one is fucking gnarly. And God, again, very rewarding. Very hard game, but very rewarding. I think in this one, you can tell that I think in this old tier list, I was trying to be more objective, I think. You see what I'm saying? Because I probably put Castlevania 64 down here just to like, not like, I don't know, not be too ridiculous or something. Like, because I probably knew people would be like, that's fucking dumb. Castlevania 1, 3, Bloodlines, Rebirth, and Rondo. Those are all there. With the addition of, I put Symphony of the Night in A tier. Order of Ecclesia I put in B tier instead of A. All right. Circle of the Moon is in A tier. That's right. Aria of Sorrows in B. Dracula Game Boy B. Yeah, B. Dude, look at this. Look at this. Holy shit, bro. This is great. I put Curse of Darkness in B though. Really? I guess I've gained more of an appreciation since then. I must have. And then Castlevania 4 at the very bottom. So mostly the same. Isn't that crazy? I've played most of these enough that I don't really need a refresher, and I think that's probably why you guys are seeing this tier list. And it's mostly similar. Like it's mostly all very similar. You know what I mean? You know, so yeah. So that's a good one. Not bad. Thanks for redeeming that, Shadow. That was a really good tier list. God damn.